Okay, good morning, everyone. Could you just settle down because one of the presenters who's in London, he's got up real early to do this presentation and he has a flight to catch. So could we just quickly kickstart? I'm going to start in 10 seconds, please. Okay, Raghav and Shaig, can you hear us?
Yes.
Thank you, Raghav.
Yes.
Thanks. Okay, great. Great crowd here. Good morning, everyone. I think we've kind of a little overrun on time, so I'm not going to take too much of time to introduce. But what we have is the first masterclass for the day. And what a better way to begin than to start with the most interesting topic that we've been facing of late, which is AI. And within that, we of course have got OpenAI. OpenAI needs no introduction. These are the folks who brought in ChatGPT to India, and I think everybody knows what that is right now. I'm also pleased to share that OpenAI and Arise has got into a partnership, and this is a pretty interesting partnership because at least from an Arise point of view, we are the only non-governmental organization that has got into a tie-up with OpenAI. The others are IIT Madras and AICTE. So thank you. I think that's a great partnership. So thank you, Raghav. Thank you, Shaig. Raghav Gupta is the education head for India, OpenAI. Again, he doesn't need any introduction. He was in Coursera for the last 8 years as a managing director, and he has built the entire Coursera business before moving into OpenAI. He looks after India and Asia Pac. He's on the call, and he's from he's actually logging in from Korea. And we've got, and of course, he's an MBA from INSEAD and clearly a great pedigree. Shaig, SHAIG, Abduragimov. Shaig, I'm sorry if I'm getting this wrong, but I hope I've got it right. He leads OpenAI solutions in engineering for education at EMEA and APAC. He's based out of London, and he partners with national systems, universities, and K-12 schools to support them in their desired learning for institutional outcomes through the use of ChatGPT and OpenAI platform. So I think we got a fantastic duo here. One who heads India, clearly knows India, and the other one who is in London looking after multiple geographies and is a solutions engineer. Now, we are in India, so we obviously have to follow the hybrid mode. So while they are digitally delivering from there, we also have physically out here with us an organization called I Am a Teacher. It has revolutionized teacher education in India for the past 12 years, and in the last 2.5 years, they have trained almost 10,000 teachers in integrating AI into their practice. And they have been represented by Ankita Dev and Ankur Dahiya. Ankur is the AI project director at IAT and specializes in building and implementing AI-driven solutions. Ankita is an AI curriculum head at IAT, has more than 15 years of experience in finance and education. Now they are here to facilitate the whole movement of what they are doing on the digital side. So together, we hope we'll have a great masterclass. Raghav, I'm handing over the mic to you. Thank you. That's my job done.
Thank you. Could you confirm that I'm audible?
Yeah, you're audible, Raghav. You're audible. Just be a little louder, please. Slightly louder.
Yeah. And is my screen visible as well?
Your screen is visible. And before that, let me tell you, you have a full house here. There are some folks standing also. So it's an exciting crowd for you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so we'll get started. Namaste. Good morning. This is a hybrid session. We'll try and make it as useful for all of you as possible. So, I was preparing for this session today, and I was reminded of a story from a few years ago. So, sometime back, my son Ishan, who was in class 10 at the Shriram School of Avali in Gurgaon at that time. So I said to him, Ishan, I want to talk to you about Coursera. And like you heard, I was the MD of Coursera at that point in time. And Ishan looked up at me and said, sure, Papa, what would you like to know? And imagine that, right? The MD of Coursera getting a lesson on how to learn on Coursera from his own son. And, I was thinking fast forward to today a little bit. I also have a daughter, Ishan's younger sister, Sania, who's in year 3 at Ashoka University. And I do want to speak to her about OpenAI and applications of OpenAI in education. But honestly, I'm a little scared, given my previous experience, to bring up ChatGPT with her. And funny stories aside, this had a lesson for me that may resonate with many of you. And this is obvious, but good to remind ourselves also. that today's kids and young adults are clearly digital natives. They take to technology like fish to water, but that doesn't mean that they can always use it wisely. And that's where all of us come in, right? How do we guide? How do we mentor? How do we bring the right way to use a technology that is evolving so quickly? And so today, with my colleague Shaig, what we'll do is we'll share why education is very central to OpenAI and how we are working with many leaders like you to shape a positive future for AI in education, in K-12 schools, in higher education, and in India as well as around the world. Now, quickly with some, just setting some context, as we know, ChatGPT launched in late 2022, and it reached 100 million users in just 2 months. This was the fastest growing consumer product ever in the history of humankind. And today, less than 3 years later, almost about 700 million people, 70 crore people, which is roughly 10% of the world's population, use ChatGPT every week, right? Every week, that's a usage that we see, and it's growing very rapidly. And we are seeing that ChatGPT and AI are being used in countless ways around the world. And some of our biggest dreams actually lie for ChatGPT in education. And I'll explain a little bit of why we are so focused on education per se. Let me share a little bit of perspective from the inside of how OpenAI thinks about this. Almost 50%, 50% of the users on ChatGPT are under 24 in India. You know, these are some school kids, these are a lot of college students, these are early career professionals as well. And they are the major users of ChatGPT. In fact, India has the largest population of students on ChatGPT anywhere worldwide, more than the US anywhere. And what are they turning to ChatGPT to, right? You'll see on this chart, the biggest use case is learning. They turn to ChatGPT to learn, in different manners. This could be to study for exams. This could be to get help with homework. This could be to explore new concepts, etc. And like I mentioned earlier, with almost 70 crore people around the world that are learning on ChatGPT, it means that ChatGPT is today one of the largest learning platforms in the world. And that's why learning students, teachers are so important to OpenAI, because our mission at OpenAI is to benefit humanity. And that's why users come to ChatGPT. Now, let's be very clear, and we're very conscious of this as well, that we see both tremendous opportunity. We also see challenges to working together. And how do we solve for this in terms of the impact of AI in education? I'll cover a little bit of both of these on the next few slides. On the opportunity side, AI has the potential to be a personal tutor for every student. You know, this is a tool that can help democratize education. It can improve learning outcomes. Many years ago, you'll see on the left-hand side, Benjamin Bloom conducted a famous study and found that students who received one-on-one tutoring outperformed pretty much 98% of their peers in traditional classrooms. The study became quite well known, but what is also very clear is not everybody can get one-on-one tutoring in the physical world. And we see a world where every student not just has a tutor, but you can actually use ChatGPT to almost become a lifelong learning agent, a coach that grows with them, understands their goals, nudges them forward, and helps students to become their better selves. And there are studies like the one on the right-hand side as well, which talk about the positive impact that this technology can have. Now, that being said, the challenges are very real, and we're very conscious of these. As AI adoption grows, there is also increasing fears that AI will undermine learning and education. And we are very clear, and all of us understand this well, that true learning does take friction, right? Grappling with ideas, studying, repetition, asking questions, and actively engaging with study materials. And if students use AI just as a shortcut, they won't learn, right? We're very clear about that. As a simple example, if I gave a calculator to a 10-year-old now, and while he or she is learning timetables, they won't learn, right? But when this child is given a calculator later in life, the ability to do higher level maths will increase. And AI is similar, which is where I think all of us need to come in to say, how do we guide students, and how do teachers and administrators use this technology as well? And what further research shows is that while students use AI in specific ways, guided by educators, and I want to emphasize guided by educators, AI can significantly enhance learning performance. And there is a challenge here as well. When we've had past waves of edtech, and I've been a part of Coursera leading it in the region, and many times edtech revolutions were top down, right? We had the luxury of time. During COVID, institutions adopted platforms like Coursera. They learned the technology, they created policy, they trained teachers, and then gave it to students. But in this case, AI adoption is happening at the grassroots. My story of Ishan and Sanya, and students are racing ahead, often ahead of schools and of parents. And so it is very, very important, urgent, I would say, that we as an education ecosystem, uh, you know, urgently dive in, guide students, and get this right. And you'll see today when we have Shaig taking us through how you can use ChatGPT, that it is very learnable. The more you play around with it, you get more and more comfortable with it. And hopefully today's workshop and masterclass will help towards some of that. Now, how do we build a world where AI enhances education? And India has close to 25 crore school students. We are approaching it in three parts, and I'll touch on these briefly. Firstly, we are building the learning product itself, shaped by feedback from Indian students, and I'll show you one example. We're also partnering with educators and institutions on how AI is used, so that in an institutional manner, we can bring this responsibly into education. And thirdly, we are continuing the learning process ourselves so that we can refine these tools in ways that meet the needs of the Indian education ecosystem. And let me quickly touch on each of these very quickly. Now, earlier this year, over I think March and April, the OpenAI team from the US and various parts of the world was in India. They visited schools, universities, met many, many people to start learning about how we might best serve students and teachers. And there were very clear themes that emerged. Students said they want ChatGPT to act more like a tutor and not just a shortcut, not just an answer machine. Parents wanted solutions that are safe, that are affordable, that are available in local languages across the country. Teachers told us that copy paste misuse is one of the biggest worries. I don't need to kind of emphasize on this. I'm sure many people appreciate that. And school leaders, policymakers wanted tools that strengthen learning outcomes, right? That's the clear feedback that we received. One of the immediate things that we did, and a direct result of this, is what we call study mode. And we'll see more of this today, but essentially study mode is a new feature which is designed to help students work through problems step by step, like almost like a Socratic tutor. It doesn't give you just the answer like the normal use of ChatGPT would, but it guides learners to engage more deeply with the material and truly understand it. And like I said, study mode is one example of how feedback from India is shaping products that we are now building for the world. And we'll see more of this shortly. This is available in all forms of ChatGPT, whether you're using the free version or the paid version of ChatGPT. The other thing in terms of partnering with institutions and how do we empower institutions a little bit is what we announced on August 25th at the OpenAI Education Summit in New Delhi. And you heard this from Vinesh as well. We announced 4 partnerships. The idea is to partner with the Ministry of Education for schools, with Arise, and also for higher education with AICTE, to train millions of educators and also students in higher education on the use of this technology, to provide free access to some of the paid tiers of ChatGPT, and to empower educators to advance AI using guided tools such as some of what you'll see today. And our hope is that with the learnings that we acquire here, we can continue to bring out the right capability within the product to be able to serve the needs of the country. And then on the third side, which is advancing learning research, we announced this partnership with IIT Madras. And while, of course, IIT Madras is a higher education institution, the research will cover both school and higher education. And the intent is to study how AI can enhance pedagogy, how it can strengthen educational outcomes and educational institutions across India. This is a longitudinal, long-term study. And once we have some of the findings of the study, it will influence our product, and also we will share the findings so that the next generation of tools and practices can come into being. Because ultimately what we're trying to do today in our journey today is not just about education as an end in itself. At OpenAI, we see a world where AI can truly expand human intelligence and human potential. And I look forward to having a conversation on how we might realize that feature, all of us together. Because at the end of the day, our goal isn't just to build better machines or better technology. It is to expand human potential. And that's what we are working towards. Now, I'll pause with that. I'll hand over to Shaig so that we can get into a bit of a deeper dive into what ChatGPT can do for you. And we'll have time for some questions and discussions as well. Shaig, I'll stop sharing and hand over to you.
Great. Thank you, Raghav. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the session. We're going to get a bit more hands-on now. And just before I do that, can you please just show me hands if you can see the screen well? Just a show of hands. Great. Thank you so much. So now I'm inside the platform. A lot of you have probably used it. Actually, how many of you use it on a weekly basis? Can I get another show of hands? How many of you use it daily? I see a few hands. That's great. Awesome. So hopefully today, we're going to walk you through some of the core capabilities of the platform, but I'm going to anchor it in one storyline, and we're going to see how ChatGPT can support learning first and foremost. And I'm going to demo study mode, and we're going to then go into some of the more teacher use cases to see how ChatGPT can support you as educators. And the first thing that I want to demo is study mode, right? Raghav spoke about this in quite a bit of detail, but ChatGPT now is one of the most widely used learning tools in the world. That means that students actually come and learn with ChatGPT on a weekly and daily basis. And in education, this has raised an important question. How do we make sure that ChatGPT and other AI tools support learning and don't just offer solutions without helping students make sense of them? So we've introduced study mode just earlier this summer, and it's a new way to learn in ChatGPT that really offers step-by-step guidance instead of quick answers. Now imagine I'm a student, and when I was a student in school, I really struggled with biology, I'm going to be honest. So let's say if I was to go into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to explain photosynthesis to me, you'll see here that it goes straight into the answer. It gives me sort of inputs where everything happens, process, some of the chemical formula. This is really, really complex, right? And this is what we don't want from AI tools. This is jumping straight into the answer. This is giving me a lot of complexity that I may not even know at this point. I could be learning this in a much younger cohort. So now let's see how this would differ with study mode. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to call our study and learn tooling, and I'm going to ask study mode the same question of explaining photosynthesis to me. So you see here, immediately from the get-go, study mode actually behaves differently. First and foremost, it tries to level set. So it asks me, what is my current level of study? And whether I'm studying this in middle school or high school biology, or if I'm reviewing this at college or adult level. So there's a lot of now level setting before we even get into practicing this topic. And then you'll see that it starts simple. So it gives me sort of an overview of this topic, sort of, again, the ingredients and some of the common ways to write the recipe. But you'll notice at the end, sort of it gives me two big stages that I may not, again, know, and it gives me a question. So this is different because it scaffolds, right? And at the end, instead of just wrapping up and sort of being done with it, it actually tries to prompt me to now think, what is the next thing that I want to learn about this topic? So this is more aligned with Socratic principles of teaching, right? This promotes more active learning. And let's say, if I start here and if I still am really, really struggling, I can actually nudge study mode a little bit further, right? So instead of, giving it more context, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that I really don't understand it, and I'm going to anchor it. I'm going to say I like sports, right? Biology is really hard for me. And let's see what's going to happen when I actually give this prompt. So you'll see that study mode now actually connects this biological topic to something that I'm more familiar with, right? To sports. And this helps me maybe understand it much, much better and brings it into my real world, right? So it equates a plant to an athlete, says that to play a game, you need energy and food and oxygen. And to make that energy, plants do photosynthesis, right? And starts giving me all of the analogies to these really complex topics, right? Some of the chemical formula, once again, and elements. So this really now adapts to my world. This is a lot more personalized, right? With study mode, we tailor to each student's interests so that we can help them nail down these concepts based on their own experiences. And this is much simpler. So breaking down the complex topic again into clearer examples where I can actually now learn this in practice. And this is the future that we're focusing on at OpenAI. And we're investing a lot of time into this with our product teams, with our research teams. We want to make sure that ChatGPT supports learning and cognitive outcomes and doesn't just give you easy answers. I'm going to be pausing quite a bit throughout the session to take questions. Any questions on this so far? Good. So we'll move forward. I really always want to start with study mode just so you can see how students would use it. But, as ChatGPT and AI embeds itself into learning, it's important to also support you as teachers in coming up with new ways to assess knowledge, right? So let's now switch hats. And I'm going to assume I'm a teacher. And maybe after teaching this unit, I want to use ChatGPT to design an assessment on another related topic, right? So I'm going to give ChatGPT a new prompt. I'm going to switch off my study mode here. And I'm going to ask ChatGPT to suggest an interactive assessment for my grade 9 students to test their understanding of environmental conservation, right? Again, another topic related to photosynthesis. Let's kick this off. And what I want to highlight here really is a lot of the times as first-time users or maybe repeat users, we find that teachers actually use ChatGPT as a thought partner. It's really useful to create new course content, activities, assessment options, and really help students learn smarter and close their knowledge gaps through different ways of assessment. And we want these to go beyond slides and lectures a lot of the times, right? Even with teaching, we really want students to wrestle with real-world dilemmas, think critically about these topics, practice them in new ways. And you can see here that, ChatGPT suggests maybe debates or role-play simulations, case study problem solving, interactive quizzes and games, conservation campaigns, really a lot of topics that I can then take and start working on and maybe developing further to introduce in the classroom. I personally really like case studies and debates as an assessment option. So let's take that suggestion and see how we can actually create that with ChatGPT as well. So obviously, you as teachers have a lot of work on your plate. You teach a lot of students, and also you have very, very limited time, right? So we really want to help you streamline some of these content generation efforts so you can be more efficient with creating your learning material. And this is something you can do with Canvas, which is different from Canvas, the learning management system. It's a collaborative space inside ChatGPT that you can use to draft any text and materials. And later on, I'll show you how you can even use it for application development. So I'm going to call my Canvas here, and I'm going to ask Canvas to design a practice case study for students to debate on an environmental conservation issue, include activity objective, structure, and reflection prompts. You can imagine that in reality, maybe I would even attach something here, maybe some of my previous materials that I've used, or something that helps me align the tone and language of my new document. And this now looks a bit different from our normal outputs. You see that it's embedded into a text box. And if I click edit, this actually now becomes very similar to a Word document or a Google document. And I can now actually start collaborating inside the same interface with my ChatGPT on this, right? So maybe I can make manual edits to this, right? Remove maybe some of the title and adapt it. A lot of the times I want to present my information differently, right? So let's say instead of using bullets from my activity structure, I can actually highlight this part and turn it into a table, right? So transform this into a table. And you'll see that whenever I do that, ChatGPT actually doesn't leave the interface, and it only selects the chunk of text that I highlighted and makes edits to that, right? So it doesn't touch my scenario or objective or title. It only edited the activity structure. So this is really, really useful because in seconds I can generate new activities, and this saves me a lot of time, and this saves teachers a lot of time when you really have to spread yourself across so many students, right? And you want to focus on actually supporting them, and being able to do more of the, content generation or even administrative tasks with supportive tools like ChatGPT. I can also use sort of my chatbot here at the bottom to make edits to this document in the same way that I would with normal prompts and following up on questions and etc. You'll notice here I also have my sort of
Shaig,
AI
Ankur this side.
kit. So with this AI kit, I can actually maybe adjust the length of this canvas, adjust the
Shaig,
reading level.
sorry
Maybe
to
I
pause
want to
you. Shaig,
make
are
it
you able
more
to hear me?
appropriate. Yep.
Hi, Shaig, possible to take one question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
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 Do we have any questions so far? Yeah.
Hello. So I want to know if there's a way that we can restrict the study mode when I'm giving the access for ChatGPT to the students.
This is the direction we're working towards. At the moment, study mode is something that you have to consciously choose. But between us, this is something that we're seeing and testing ways that we can embed this into some of the more learning licenses that we have, and make sure that whenever we have students interacting with the platform, they default to study mode. So that's the vision. Yes.
I have a question. Here.
If I could also request, if you'll please just say your name and institution, it'll help us maybe just understand your context when we answer the question.
Yeah. My name is Mohammad Azhar, and I'm from, I run a school in Chennai.
So my question with you is when we create question paper or assessment on higher order thinking skills, still I'm not getting to that level with ChatGPT. Can you elaborate on that, like higher order thinking skills?
Yeah, I think that's sort of a topic maybe that we'll need more time to discuss. What exactly you're not getting out of it? Just,
So-
anything specifically?
Yeah, in terms of critical thinking, like I'm just when I give a question to create on higher order thinking, that is application analysis and creation with Benjamin Bloom taxonomy. Still, I'm not matching to the question paper of IGCSE, where we can train the children to that level. So, are you getting my question?
I think there's sort of a lot of ways that you can improve the outputs of ChatGPT, right? If you're able to maybe supplement some of the material that you have in mind to get to that level that you want, that would help. So maybe using attachments or even connecting to your I don't know if you maybe store this in SharePoint. We have native connectors that can help with that. Another thing is obviously, we've introduced recently GPT-5, which is our latest flagship model. But GPT-5 has different reasoning efforts, right? So we have thinking that can help maybe with some of the more complex assessment drafting, especially when you focus on some of the more scientific topics, because GPT-5 thinking uses more reasoning. And even though it would take a bit more time to generate some of these things because it will think through it a little bit more, it achieves a higher level of performance. GPT-5 in general is, I think, the best models we have for education. It combines a lot of the research we've done, and it's much better at a lot of the axiomatic and even non-axiomatic subjects. So I would try these different things, right? Improve the prompts, use attachments, give it a bit more context, use a higher reasoning model, and hopefully, that can help you get to the right level.
Thank you. And if you can show one assessment question paper or one model for us to show what you said, like creating question paper on higher order thinking skills. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll cover some other things now, and then towards the end, I'll show you how actually you can use GPT-5 for coding and how you can create now applications to support some of the learning. So hopefully that will answer some of the questions you have around the reasoning effort that goes into these tools.
Excuse me, I have a question. So what we see while using ChatGPT is it's more text-based, right? So when I try to create a flow chart or a concept map or a graphic organizer, let's say, by giving it some data or cues, I don't see, at least I'm using the free version as of now, so I don't see a diagrammatic representation or an illustration, because see, ChatGPT in terms of text will work for students who are probably linguistically smart. For students who are not too much into interpreting text in the right way, how do you think ChatGPT would be helpful?
I want to ask for a question. For your name, because this is such a great segue to where I was leading with the with the platform walkthrough.
I am Shireen.
So thank you for that question.
Right. Thank you. I am Shireen, headmistress, Springfields International School, Hyderabad.
Great. Thank you, Shireen. You exactly nailed it, right? So far, I've been focusing a lot on textual outputs and inputs, but when we teach, we have to take into account a lot of the different learning styles, right? We have some visual learners. We have learners who maybe prefer to engage with the content in a different way. And I want to show you how you can do that. I'll start with voice mode, and then we'll go into image generation, right? But I've been working on this case study, right? I have now drafted this in my canvas. Let's assume that I now want to actually practice it and help my students live it, right? So I'm going to switch off canvas here, and we're going to go into voice mode to see how ChatGPT can become a simulation partner.
So yeah, just one more question.
Oh.
Yeah.
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 Is
before
there a
Shaig-
question?
Yeah, just one more question, Shaig, before we can, start moving. Yeah.
Yep.
Do we have a loose mic? Yeah, I try to, yeah. Just a moment, Shaig.
Thank you. One real quick question. Something that's been really helping me over the last few months is the personalized chatbot that can be used within ChatGPT. I would love for you to throw more light on how these personalized chatbots can be used by learners in classrooms and make their learning outcomes, again, more personalized, and something if you could throw a little bit light on how educators here can use that. Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll cover that also at the end. I'll show you all of these different custom GPTs is what we call them.
And Shaig, if I can just add one point for the benefit of the room, we're going to cover a lot of things. My recommendation would be if you have questions on what you've seen so far, let's cover those first. We'll have a lot of time to cover questions on other topics that you have in mind. But just to make sure that we're able to cover what we have planned, please ask questions first on what you're seeing now, and then other topics we can take later. And I would also encourage, if you have ChatGPT on your phone, if you want to kind of play along with what you're seeing with Shaig, then feel free to do that, because then it tells you what is in the platform as well.
Good morning, everyone. I have a question just related to the study and learn more.
Ma'am, we'll go through this and we'll pause again for questions. We'll come back to you in just a moment.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. I really appreciate questions. Yes. But let's see some of the features, and hopefully this will answer some of those questions that we've had so far, and maybe some of the ones that haven't been yet answered or asked. But yeah, let's say I've drafted this case study, right? Let's bring it to life with voice mode. Hey, chat. So I have this case study and I want to practice it. Can you please help me? Maybe you can take on a role and assign me a role. Yep, that sounds good. Actually, can we practice this in English?
Hi, Shaig.
So I mix Hindi
sorry
and
to pause you
English.
there, but we weren't able to hear ChatGPT's response.
Oh,
I think the audio might not be shared.
Yeah, your audio might
Shaig,
not be
just
shared.
check your computer audio.
all right. Let's see. Let me see if I can share this better.
You might need to just reshare your screen and switch on audio sharing. I think that's how it works with Zoom.
Yes. Okay, let me reshare my screen and we'll check this again. Okay, I'll try once more. I think yesterday this was working, but maybe I need to adapt a few things here. Great. Let's try this again. Hi, chat. Can you try again? Let's practice this case.
Still
Did you
can't
guys hear that?
Still can't hear it, Shaig.
Okay. Well, that's. Let me see if there's anything else here that's not set correctly. I think maybe in the interest of time, we'll move on then. Sadly, I think maybe some of the tech issues. But what you're going to see, hopefully, here is everything that I say actually goes into the conversation, right? So every question that I ask, and if I ask you to practice a case with me, this also gets recorded in the same conversation. So you'll see here what the model was actually responding with. And taking on a role of an environmental activist and assigning me a role of the government official. And then if I was to ask you to practice in Hindi and English, so in English, which is something that you would probably use a lot more in your daily activities. It can also be multilingual, right? Sadly, you couldn't hear it to see how it also is actually very natural in the way that it speaks. But if you try it on your phones after this, you'll be able to test this out for yourselves. Speaking, about voice mode, this actually opens up a lot of doors, right? So we have the model here responding like a real stakeholder. So it can ask questions, it can push back, it can force me to justify my decisions and thinking. So this is a really good way of not just making learning more interactive, but also helping our students build some of the soft skills that are really, really important, right? When you think about leadership and negotiation and being able to take complex topics and break them down, voice mode can be a really good partner in practicing this and simulating this. And we at OpenAI support over 700 million users on a weekly basis. And for us, it's really important to make sure that we give equitable access to teachers and students, no matter what language they prefer. So we support over 50 different languages and dialects here. Going back to Shiri's questions about visual outputs, sometimes we need diagrams to make things click, right? Again, we have a lot of visual learners. We want to make sure that we account for those different accessibility needs and learning styles, and we can use ChatGPT for that as well. So if I use my image generation model here, I can actually ask ChatGPT to create a mock graphic for this case that I can use for my discussion. I'm going to ask you to use English for text here in the interest of time. And you see that as I send this prompt, it gets started on drafting that image. Now, this may take just a few seconds, but using image generation models is a great way, again, to create images and use them alongside your text materials. Similar to voice mode, this actually opens new doors for creativity and digital literacy in the classroom, as well as adapting to different learning styles. And again, if I wanted to then, once this is done rendering, if I want to then go ahead and send follow-up prompts on the same image or edit some of the parts of the image, I can do it in the same chatbot, in the same way that I would do with any other output from ChatGPT by just sending up follow-up prompts. This is using our latest image generation models, right? So these models are really good at context following. They're really good at instruction handling and also text rendering. So you'll see that the text on these images is actually really, really to a much higher level than you would normally see. And again, this was a very minimal prompt, right? And if I want to create something very specific, I would give a lot more detail here to make sure I get the desired output. I'm going to pause here and take more questions, but hopefully this answered some of the questions from Shireen and maybe the rest of you.
Yeah, hi, I am Kapil from Bright Future School, Gujarat. So I do have one question, like as a teacher, if I want to give some assignment or project work to the students, and later I just want to analyze that, how my children are doing. Is this possible that students or the students and teachers and the school management can work collaboratively and they can use a ChatGPT?
I think it's a great question. And this is the reason we partner with institutions to help them understand how they can use ChatGPT for learning, teaching, and across the university or across the school campus, really, right? So you want to take an institutional framework, governance framework, and apply it to support learning in new ways. Raghav and I have, worked together on some of these deployments. I think when it comes specifically to, ChatGPT use, we tend to see a lot of schools start with giving ChatGPT to teachers so that teachers can understand how to best use it in their work and how to use it for teaching. And that comes with understanding how students may be using it and how we can maybe assess them better. A lot of the universities and schools have taken initiatives to really look at new ways of assessment. Some of these assessments may incorporate ChatGPT use, right? Some of them may not. But it's really, I think, something that, like you said, needs to be decided at your school level or institutional level and adopted with clear policy in place.
Yeah. Any more questions?
Good
Yeah.
morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. This is Neelam from Bal Bharati School, Bahadurgarh.
Okay.
Yeah. My question is like, if we ask for any topic in the scriptural manner, the ChatGPT is able to provide the answer, and we are even if I ask ChatGPT to convert it into a Word file, it is possible. But suppose if I take any topic and I ask the ChatGPT to make certain images showing each step by step, so will it be able to compile it in a Word file? Because I have tried several times, but it fails.
So I want to add to the question. In this image, why is the car not driving in any of the two lanes?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's maybe just not a good driver, but we can also fix that. I'll actually show you, for example, if you were to open this up, this now minimizes the image, but we have this tooling where you can just select maybe a specific part of the image and ask to edit it. This gets asked a lot as well, so I just wanted to show you this. But going back to sort of the question that I had, creating images is something you can do in ChatGPT. We have what we call agent mode that can actually create images and then put them in slide decks and reports. There's a lot of, again, like ChatGPT is very intuitive and easy to use. Some of the capabilities are not there, but that's constantly evolving, right? So what's not possible today necessarily with maybe a simpler prompt is going to be possible tomorrow. I would advise that you can potentially maybe experiment with agent mode. That can help create spreadsheets, that can help create PowerPoint decks, and it actually uses our image generation models to paste images in those straight away. But for more of the report generation, yeah, you would have to create an image and then maybe copy paste it over for the time being. I'm gonna just quickly show you actually the last part of this demo, right? So we've looked at text, we've looked at image, we've looked at voice mode. I wanna show you how you can leverage ChatGPT's coding for teaching in new ways. GPT-5, I've highlighted, is really good for coding, and it's great for building applications. So this makes our classrooms maybe a little bit more interactive, a little bit more engaging, and we can start thinking of how we can make them a little bit more fun even, right? So I'm gonna call what we used earlier, which is our canvas, and I'm gonna ask Canvas to create an interactive and colorful app where a student can pick a role. So again, this relates to the case that we've been working with, and get flashcards or battle cards with key debate arguments. Keep it simple and minimal. And if I hit send, you'll see that similar to what we saw earlier, and actually here ChatGPT is taking a bit longer to think, which goes back to my point about reasoning. It's going to spin up a new canvas for me, but instead of drafting text, it's going to start drafting code. Now, this may be a little bit overwhelming, but don't get too sort of overwhelmed. On my end, there's really no coding skill required, right? This all goes through natural language prompts. So I just tell ChatGPT what I want in terms of features, maybe in terms of functionality, and it can handle the rest. I'm working with simple prompts here once again, but this can be as detailed as you want. Why is this really important, right? We've covered voice again, we've covered image, now we're covering app building. That's because we found that interactive practice actually has a positive effect on achievement on average. And this is something that you obviously know much more than I do, But when you make your content more engaging for the students, they learn better. And studies show that they actually can move a learner from the 50th percentile to the 60th, right? So that's quite a significant impact. And again, talking about different accessibility needs, talking about different learning styles, this really helps us cater to those needs and make sure we don't just support a very specific type of learner, but that we can actually work with all of these different styles. And do it in a much more accelerated manner, right? Potentially creating all of this would normally take me maybe days of work and a lot of different tooling, but within the same chat interface, I can actually produce a lot of learning materials. And when I say adaptive and accessible, I also mean bilingual, right? So we saw a little bit of Hindi and English earlier on, and I'm going to show you while this is building some of the apps that I've created for music, right? So here I would practice, and you're probably not going to be able to hear this, and I can practice some of the music notes. I can practice Newton's first law of motion, right? So if I push this ball, I can then, push it to the left and maybe pause, change some of the velocity. So bring physics concepts into life, and even math, right? Create these sort of quick quizzes that I can help students use to develop some of the quick math skills, right? So even this for a higher class, but if I record, let's say, an answer here and submit, it tells me it's not right. And actually, it also records that mistake, so I can then understand where I'm lagging in terms of my math skills. So there's a lot really that you can do here with these apps. You can cover a wide range of subjects. You can build these for sciences, maths, some of the creative subjects. And let's look at this as well. This is now completed building. I can preview these directly in ChatGPT, and you see now that I have, again, my roles, right? I can switch roles here. I can maybe look at my battle points, right? And then look at the next one. And this really makes a lot of the activities much more, in a way, fun, right? I wish, when I was studying in school, I could really, in the same easy manner, create all of these different tools to support my learning. One thing I want to highlight is obviously we're working with internet access here. But if you download these applications and they're rendered in the HTML format, you can actually run them locally on your computer without internet access as well, right? So if you want to share these with students who maybe don't have necessarily the same level of internet access at home, and maybe even they only have a mobile device, you can adapt all of this to support them as well. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're excluding those students. No, you can make these mobile friendly. You can download, you can send them, they can open it on any different laptop. And when you work in the same ChatGPT EDU interface, you can actually share also links to this, so your students can open them up as well. I'm gonna pause here again.
Yeah, hi. My name is Sudhir Rana. I work as the creative head of Nehru World School. Two questions. For the equity of access, are we looking at where the study and learn mode especially is available in the offline mode as well, to reach to the part of the world and country where internet is not reached? Also, much needed feature, will we have a feature where we can share our screen to the browser and show and ask where is being seen in the browser in the screen? Thank you.
Great questions. Very timely questions. I'll start with the second one. So a lot of this is our product vision, right? So a lot of this I can't actually fully answer in detail just because a lot of this is still work in progress. But we do have all of these, working in your computer and the browser, and having ChatGPT, work with you, alongside you, so you don't have to switch between tabs. Making sure that we can support some of the offline learning. Those are things that we're actively looking at, and I think that's honestly the extent that I can say. But yeah, we're actively working on those things.
Hi, Shaig. Ankur this side. I have a question, and it's basically about hallucinations, and it's a quite common problem faced by most of the AI models. While GPT-5 model I learned had reduced hallucinations from 20% to 5%. But my question is, is there a way, is there a trick through which maybe we can tell in the prompt, hey, I don't want you to hallucinate, or just give me answers if you know it, right? Is there something, because when students are learning something, and if the AI model is hallucinating, that could pose a risk to the learning of the students. So if you could just enlighten us how we educators can pass it on to the students and use ourselves, if there's something like that.
Absolutely. Great question. Models do hallucinate, and that's just the nature of them being probabilistic tools, right? This week we published a really good paper on why these hallucinations happen. And you're absolutely right that there are ways that you can actually minimize those hallucinations. I'm going to tie this to the question that I had earlier around custom GPTs, right? So for example, in this case, I've created several custom GPTs so you can see the range of these, right? From being a physics tutor to being an IT helper on your campus to being a language buddy, right? A lesson plan generator. But let's say I pick the chemistry study assistant, right? And when I use study tools like this, I want to make sure that they're actually rooted in the context that I give these tools, and either don't go and search for answers somewhere else, or if they don't know the answer, they just say it, this is not part of the learning material. You do achieve that through instructions, right? So under the hood here, you'll see there are different instructions and prompts that tells the GPT how to act, right? So for example, when a user asks to take a practice test, please follow this 5-step process. In the same manner, you would just make sure to include in your prompting, if you don't know the answer, if the answer is not in any of the knowledge material that may be attached to you, don't hallucinate, don't create these answers, root whatever you say in the context that's given, and if you don't know it, you just say you don't know it. So that's one way of looking at it. Prompt engineering is what we call this. So really making sure that you include those instructions in your prompts, whether you work with custom GPTs or not. And honestly, I'd say probably with some of the latest models, once again, hallucination rates are dropping. Specifically, I'm going to again talk about GPT-5. We've reduced hallucination rates by quite a lot. So it's now below 10%, which I think is the best that we've seen across all of our models. And it's actually between 0 and 5% in controlled environments. By controlled environments, again, meaning when they're giving very specific instruction set, very specific context, and they're asked not to create any content that doesn't actually align with any of those. Good. I'm going to actually quickly also highlight this chemistry study assistant, right? So we've looked at ways that you can use just ChatGPT by itself, ad hoc, but sometimes you want to create these custom GPTs to support with very different needs, right? So this is a study assistant that I can use to practice chemistry, right? And for example, if I was to come here and ask it to give me a brief outline of the course, you can imagine at school, you could use this as sort of a 24/7 TA, right? So here it gives me that brief outline, gives me the course curriculum, right? Different chapters. And I can then take this and start maybe using it for study guides or to dive deeper into some of those modules. So let's say create a study guide for chapter 3, whatever it was up there, chemical bonds and compounds, right? So you see now it creates a study guide for me. Again, this is rooted in the textbook that was in the attachments earlier, right? So it's taking all of this information and it's given to it. If it didn't have this information, it would probably create this content based on its training data, or even sometimes, trying to, if it has web browsing capabilities, trying to look for this online. But this can now support students not just in the classroom, but also outside of the classroom. And again, you can align this to your specific ways of teaching and to your tone, and make them either as narrow as you want or as broad as you want. So if you wanted to create a custom GPT specifically, for photosynthesis, right? Something that we spoke about earlier, you could do that, or you could create a custom GPT for the entire chemistry curriculum in your grade 7, 10, 12.
Shaig, I have a question around custom GPT. So when I use a custom GPT, is there a way, like if I share the custom GPT to about 15 people, is there a way I, as the custom GPT creator or owner, get to know how many people are using it, or how are those people using it? Is there a way to do that?
At the moment, no. You can't see it as the owner. I'm right now in the EDU license, right? So as an admin maybe of the EDU license, you can see general usage, right? Maybe how many chats have been used or have been started in the custom GPT, but you don't get access to, the content of these. So if you want to see what teachers are asking or how they're interacting, you won't get that visibility.
Excuse me, I have a question. I'm Shireen again. So in India, we have around 5 to 6 curricula that we follow, example CBSE, IGCSE, IB, and etc. So is there a possibility to link these curricula content, especially, so that, if I'm going to say at grade 7 level for a CBSE curriculum, this is more to do with the study mode. If I'm a student of grade 5, 7, or 9, let's say, and I'm specifically working on learning a particular concept of a particular curriculum, and ChatGPT will be able to give me or help me learn that particular concept to ensure that I score well, right? See, though we are very particular about enhancing the knowledge of the children, ultimately the end goal is to enhance the academic scores, right? So for especially students of average or below average levels, if they want to study in a shorter time and their goal is to score better or to write answers in a better way so that they can fetch better scores, so can this ChatGPT be linked with specific curricula available in India?
Absolutely. So the way that you can already do it now is you can just use attachments, right? So I'll show you here. I just downloaded your CBSE, I think, chapter on reproduction in organisms, right? So I have this now as an attachment. And if I can put this in ChatGPT, right, and then again invoke study mode, I can now start asking questions and getting answers rooted in this textbook. So that would be sort of the easiest way for your students to already start bringing some of the more familiar, approved content into their learning, and do it with study mode as well. Obviously, there are ways potentially that you can use some of the more advanced tools, and I'm not going to go too much into the technical detail there, but you can use connectors, you can create maybe API calls to centralized repositories with these materials, but that requires some of the sort of
so in continuation with that question, I'm so sorry to interrupt. So I had actually, so we've been doing this, and I'm sure most of us are actually uploading the PDF documents of the content and trying to get the required material. So once I had actually uploaded 2 PDF documents of 2 different chapters in science, and it had given me question answers, one on the correct PDF file, and the second one was magnetic field and its effects, but it had given me questions from force and pressure. I was really upset, and I had to be a little annoyed, and I had to put a phrase saying that, what's wrong with you? So, see, for teachers, I understand these mistakes can be spotted easily, but let's say a student is trying to do something or learn something from ChatGPT, and such mistakes happen. How do you think, especially younger children, will they be able to identify without a person beside to guide them? Because when we are talking about tutoring exclusively with ChatGPT, these are things I'm sure bound to happen. And how do we plan to rectify this?
So I think that goes back to the previous question around hallucinations, right? And we are working on constantly improving the model so they hallucinate less and that they follow instructions better and that they take the context that they're given as sort of the rule more than less. In terms of how can we help students engage with AI better, I think a lot of this goes to building the literacy, right? Whenever students use these tools, and it's important they understand sometimes these tools are not accurate, right? This can happen. And this is where we really, again, part of why we partner so closely with education institutions is to help bring this literacy to students and help them make sense of this really powerful tool. Really, I'd say probably one of the most powerful cognitive tools that we've had, and understand how to use it and not take everything that comes, with it as sort of the ground truth, the single source of truth. So that's, I think a lot of it is really engaging with students on those topics, right? Again, a lot of it goes back to like prompt engineering, like helping students ask the right questions. And that's something that Raghav, I think, mentioned in his introduction. When we were in India, a lot of the discussions we've had were not about necessarily, how to get the right answers from ChatGPT, but how do we ask ChatGPT the right questions, right? And that's sort of the first point where you start, because with the right questions comes the right output.
Hey, Shaig, this is Vinesh here. Sorry, someone was asking something?
Yeah, good morning. My name is Varsha from the CC school. I have a question to your explanation only, where children today are really smart. So how can we get detailed citations and links to the original sources while querying for anything and for the better authenticity of the data? So can you just throw some light on that?
Shaig, just throw a quick light on it because we're running a little out of time. So this is the last question, folks. But Shaig, can you just answer that quickly?
Yeah, so again, we do have inline citations with search and deep research tools, right? And a lot of the times when you create custom GPTs or even interact with ChatGPT in a simple chat interface, it goes back to asking it to do these things, right? So if you say, hey, like, let's practice, and with every concept that you give me, can you actually cite the page where you're getting this concept? That's the starting point, and then you build from there. Once again, a lot of it also like goes into model development, and these are the things that we are tackling because we're hearing this a lot, and because of that, we introduced citations, and you can actually check sources when you run web searches within ChatGPT, and this is going to be constantly improving and evolving.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, folks. Shaig, I think I'll ask you a question. What time is your flight?
So actually, Raghav was the one who was flying.
Okay, cool.
I don't have Right, I do have a lot of work though.
Okay, good. So I'm going to just take the liberty of pausing you, Shaig, because we are kind of a little overrunning on the time. And I'm handing over the mic to Ankita to just summarize what's been discussed. I know there are many more questions, but probably we'll have to maybe just ask ChatGPT for the rest of the answers. So, Ankita, over to you.
Thank you, Shaig and Raghav. That was a great session, very insightful, and gave me a lot of food for thought. And I felt that from the questions that emerged, so I am a teacher myself, and I've been training a lot of teachers in using AI tools like ChatGPT. So some of the concerns that came up, I just wanted to share my thoughts on it from the pointers that were shared over here. One of the things that excites me personally, and a data point that had come up over here, that 50% under 24 are already using it. And in fact, a lot of high school students that I've spoken to personally, they are using it. And I would say that we go with positive assumptions for children, because in all my conversations with children, they are very much aware about hallucinations. They were aware about limitations. I'm talking about older kids. So 8th, 9th, above, up till 12th grade, they are all using it for their work. Some of them are using it in a very positive manner because they've shared that they are using it as another additional form of feedback. And something I was able to connect to over here, that if we are like referring back to Bloom Sigma study, that if you're looking at it as a potential for a personal tutor, then where do we shift that in our classroom? That's something I am personally exploring as well. That if a child has this kind of unlimited access at home, how does the child use it for the benefit of academics as well as personal pursuits? Some of the schools around the world are doing this in person, in physical campuses, where we are looking at personalized pathways. But how do you do that at a larger scale? At the scale that we see students in our classrooms. That was one thing that is, for me personally, I find that an exciting thing worth pursuing. And that's something I would encourage educators to think more about. Some risks that came up, and yes, they are definite risks, because one of the things that came up, that sure, it can do the thinking for me, but we are here to teach thinking to students. And one of the things that we obviously encourage in our schools, and why schools exist, is that you have to co-construct knowledge. You have to actively construct knowledge as a learner. And there I would simply say, although I think Shaig did a great job of explaining what ChatGPT can do, but we have a very crucial role to play in the class. So look at study and learn mode as an add-on, and look at it as something, as an access for children when you are not there at home. You can't be there 24/7, but there are students in our classroom, and it is a reality that they are struggling. So it is somewhere that if in the classrooms your focus is on very hands-on, very experiential, rich in classroom discussions, if you can focus on those goals in the classroom, then when it comes to review, when it comes to additional support, then I think there AI has a lot of scope. At least that is what we are right now experimenting with all the partner schools that we are working with. So we are looking at our goals as a teacher. And one thing that I can strongly recommend, that for teachers, there is incredible potential of what you can create for students. That doesn't mean that students directly have access to tech in the classroom. They don't need that. But what you can do with that tech is really immense. I'll be happy to talk about that in detail with anybody who wants to know more. But yeah, a lot of features were shared, voice and all of those, and we can talk about that. One last thing which was shared towards the end, which was apps. And again, that other than learning pathway, that is one more thing which I think is a very exciting use. I'm looking at it from a teacher's perspective because children will anyway learn how to code and how to create apps. But for teachers, how do you use, if you have a smart board in your class, how do you start creating those interactive apps that you might not have been able to do before? So I've created a lot of apps, shared those with teachers, and it's so easy now, even if you don't have a tech background. And simple things like, classroom noise is increasing, and children you need to show them visibly that noise is increasing and you want it to come down. So having an app like that, so it's now possible. So I will stop that. I hope I haven't had it. But
Vinesh.
Ankur, would you
Yeah.
like to talk about the session, please?
I'll just take 60 seconds. Thanks, Ankita. So thank you, Ankita, for summarizing that. Vinod, can we have the slide on the screen, please? So thank you to OpenAI for telling us what is possibility with AI in education. And we are having a closed door, you can say, session in the coming week to test these big ideas in the real classrooms. So we have about 40 schools who can register for this session, and we at Timer Teacher is organizing the session, an online one. So please take a photo, and if you wish to test these big ideas in your real classrooms, this is a hands-on session that we're organizing. And thanks, Vinesh, for allowing us to take this time, and thank you everyone for joining. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you, Ankur and Ankita. We can't end the session without quickly acknowledging you guys, and of course, Shaig and Raghav online. So may I just request, Gautam, you're the first person I see, so just come on. Ankita, can I have the certificates, please? Certificate of appreciation for Ankita. Thank you, Ankita. You can clap. And Ankur, Shaig, for you and Raghav, it's going to come digitally.
Thank you so much.
And
But
my
honestly,
last
this
line
has
is,
been a-
even if you do ChatGPT, please, it's good to trust ChatGPT, but verify. I don't know how many of you noticed, but Ankur and Ankita came on the slides there, and the profile was there of Raghav and Shaig. So just trust whatever you folks are doing on the ChatGPT also. But thank you, Shaig. Thank you so much. You can go back to your work, and thank you everybody for being a patient audience. You're all on your mobile phones. I'm hoping it was ChatGPT and not anything else. But thank you everybody. We can now get back to our other sessions. Thank you.
Just a quick announcement for everyone before we start off with the 3 parallel masterclasses. Arise members can be seated in the same room. We'll be having the session on navigation in GST 2.0. What next for education here itself. Others can move to second floor. We'll be having 2 masterclasses there. One will be on Privacy First, the school's guide to the digital personal data protection act. This will be in the conference room. And masterclass on understanding teen brain policy insights on critical skills and mental well-being in the committee room.
वर्चुअल कंटेंट मेकिंग जैसे कि आप